Welcome, Fiorina. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. And hello to all our viewers. I am Ruchi Dwivedi, the podcast host with She Site magazine. Our guest, Fiorina Mugione, is from Italy. She's an economist with an MBA in international trade. She has over 25 years of experience in international organizations. She worked primarily in research and policy analysis, in enterprise, investment, and development issues at various UN organizations based in Geneva, Bangkok, and New York, as well as OECD in Paris. She designed and established leading programs for investment promotion and private sector development, applying a gender lens to global and national policies and strategies. As a team leader, she has coordinated the implementation of more than 50 technical cooperation programs in investment and entrepreneurship. In addition, she led the team in assisting governments in formulating national entrepreneurship strategies and action plans in the Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Ethiopia, El Salvador, Cameroon, the Gambia, and Tanzania. She currently works independently as a consultant and master coach and serves as an ambassador for the European Union Capacity for Development Program, where she contributes to promoting sustainable development through capacity building. She is the vice president of Ophelia International, a Swiss-based NGO in education, leadership, innovation, and sustainable agriculture. She also serves on the board of several NGOs in Asia, such as Brianna, and Africa, Accelerate Africa. So with a long list of achievements and accomplishments, I welcome you, Fiorina, to our podcast today. And we have a few questions to ask you and enrich us with information. And finally, we will close with a quick rapid fire. So with that, let me start with the first question, Fiorina. You've had a remarkable 30 plus years of a career journey and a slew of accomplishments that follow you. How did you start your international career?
Thank you, Ruchi, for hosting me. Hello to all the listeners and the community of She Site. I support the magazine, which is part of the Prayana activities. So I'm happy to be with you today and also to address the audience as coming from a small town in southern Italy. I come from at the time when I was growing up, it was only 60,000 people. Now it's a much bigger town with 250. There's a university, but none of that was there when I was growing up. I always dreamed big. I wanted to get away. Although I love my hometown, it was too small for me. You know, I would feel that I didn't have opportunities to grow, to experience, and I wanted to see the world. Luckily, it was a coastal town, so there was a harbor, and that made me dream of, you know, if I had probably been a boy, I would have been a sailor. Dream of going away, of exploring the horizon. And, you know, I was actually hanging out at the harbor to speak to the sailors, and they were telling me stories about foreign countries and how exotic it would be. They would bring me gifts because they would come regularly. So it became a passion for me to travel, to explore. But really, the turning point was when I was still a student at the university. I studied in Naples because it's a close by, the largest metropolitan area close by. At the time, my hometown didn't have a university. But the 80 was a turning point because there was a major earthquake in my hometown in the area. So there were 3,000 people dead. And it was a shocking experience for everyone, including me, because it was a major threat. We had a fear of tsunami also. So it was a panic for a few days. Mm-hmm. I went, I wanted to help. I wanted to do something for people that lost everything. I myself, I had a little place in Naples and it was damaged. So I lived the earthquake experience as a major turning point in my life. And I went volunteering for the Red Cross. And in a few months later, the American Red Cross started a program of reconstructions of the villages that were hit by the earthquake. So they recruited me because I was able to speak English and I had knowledge of the the area. They needed an assistant to help them reaching out to the small villages, speaking to people, helping them design a reconstruction program. And that was for me an extraordinary professional experience, because the American Red Cross representatives were really good, and they had different profiles. I could learn so much from them, and they were also fun to work with. I actually was my best boss ever. We're still friends, by the way, 30 plus years later. So we developed a bond. I mean, anyone that has been through a traumatic experience of an earthquake, you know that afterwards there is a sort of a community engagement, community spirit. So I sort of saw what you could do in the humanitarian field, and I got passionate about humanitarian work. And I really wanted to follow with the Red Cross, but in fact, I wasn't able to. Some of the tests that I had to take to become a staff for the Red Cross were psychological tests, and I didn't do well with those, because my emotions were prevailing my decision making at times. They, didn't recognize my resilience aspect, that I could deal with it. I think for a lot of women, we are empathetic. We have our hearts commanding us before we think sometimes. This type of thing, and also they felt I would cry. I was young, obviously, but I wouldn't have the trait of character. They seemed to be resilient in face of adversity, that I was too empathetic. I mean, it was also my region, so I was very emotional about what was happening. And sometimes also not accepting the cruel decision that had to be made, destroying people's home because they can't be rebuilt. And a lot of people reaction is, we want to rebuild on the same place, and a lot of people had to leave their original settlements because it was unsafe. So I mean, I can see now, thinking back, that I was too young and I was too emotional, but I had in me this drive, this drive to succeed, and I kept this interest in international humanitarian action along my career. So when I finished my studies, I actually went to work in the private sector. I left Italy soon after I had my MBA. I had a position in Paris. That's where I met my husband. I got married with a Frenchman. But I wasn't happy in the private sector. I had managed to have a position in a marketing function, in an export, so I could deal with international, but there was something missing, a purpose in life, that I was looking for. So I went back I said, okay, if I cannot work for the Red Cross because I don't fit, that's what they told me. There's something else I could do in the humanitarian development, since I have completed my study now, I have some expertise in, marketing, export function. Is there something that I could do with international organizations? So I started to look at programs, and I applied. I did a lot of applications. So finally I was recruited by a government of Italy sponsored a program to work at the United Nations in Bangkok, and I also was so lucky that my husband encouraged me, because he was the first one to say, let's go. We leave Paris and we go to explore Asia. And I had a good partner, to accompany me in that journey, because it's also important for women to maintain a family life, that you have a partner that understands your needs and accompany you along the journey. So I started in Bangkok, at the time, when I arrived coming from Paris, we were already on the internet almost, it wasn't what we know today, but we had an intranet and computers, all that was available in Paris. And when I arrived in Bangkok, I was given sort of a paper and a pencil, and that was my tool to work. And I said, my God, how would I function here? Because, but then I thought, okay, but that's why I'm here, to bring this new approach to technology, to try to explain there are other ways that we can advance by developing projects. So I brought this enthusiasm, this energy. By the time I left the Bangkok office, I had computers every corner, because I raised money and equipped the office with the computers, because I thought, my God, we need that, to work, and now the world is connecting. So we have to be ready. And the UN office wasn't ready. So I was part of the movement, where things were changing, and I was able to come up with ideas. I always, I realized, after becoming more self-aware of what are my strengths and my weakness, that I have one quality that drove me along the way of making it up in an international career. and becoming an achiever, because we are here also because we want to know how do you achieve, I'm an activator, I look at the situation, identify a problem, and I will think about possible solutions. I'm also trying to find what is it that we can do to improve, how can we do it better, how we can put something in motion to make a change, and that quality, I was able to sort of harness it to become a strength in a professional life. The status quo is also a comfort zone sometimes,
Yes,
and then if you come to a new job, most of people try to fit it, to adapt. And when I come in, I sort of, it's like I have to open up, a window and make a change, to make a mark in somehow. Why am I here? What can I do? How can I make things better? So with that approach, sometimes people react badly. I had so many experiences where people don't like to change
Change
things.
is hard.
Change is hard. One of the most frequent things that I heard in my life, who's that girl? And I think many women in career position probably heard that comment, because I don't come from a big university. I have no credential of a PhD. I haven't studied in the US. I haven't studied in the UK, which is an international organization world, or in the corporate world, international corporate world would be recognized.
Yeah.
I was like a nobody coming from a small town, studying in Italy. Even my MBA was in Italy. I have work experience. I'm a self-learner. I am able to come up with ideas. I'm creative. Who's the girl? Who's the girl? It's a famous Madonna song later on. You sort of, who are you? Basically,
Right.
it's a dismissive sentence to tell you in a polite way, shut up, who are you to bring a change? Who are you? And so I dare to bring the change, because it was something that it was important to me. It was meaningful to me. I don't only work to make money. I work in contributing something to the world. I was very conscious of my obstacles in making a career in international organization, but I wanted to do it. I wanted to succeed. And I have done that also by empowering others, because in my entire career, I made sure that my door would be always open. We don't know each other, but some of the group in Prayana, they come to my office, for example, Dr. Chandra, she will remember my office always had the door open. And I would, without an appointment, you could sit down, have a cup of coffee, discuss things with me. And if I would receive an email or a phone call from a person even that I didn't know, I felt it was my duty to inform the public, and even more if there were people disadvantaged coming from a rural area, that it was an effort for them to try to reach out, and most people would just hang out. Who are you? I would respond, because I remember who's the girl comment. I remember my humble beginnings, where I was only studying because of grants. I was only able to study because I had to excel to make it through.
No, it's been a beautiful journey, and thanks for going into the depth and details of it. Of course, filled with challenges and questions from all directions. You did touch upon this a number of times, but I would like to ask you and maybe elaborate. What are you most passionate about? I know you talked about helping the world and more humanitarian work, helping people and being a support system to those who need you. But again, like, what drives your passions?
I have covered several positions in trade, investment, and entrepreneurship. But what I find I'm passionate about is entrepreneurship. Really, the world of small firms is something that I relate to. And I also feel there is a powerful development tool, because it empowers people to be independent, gain their own livelihoods in a sustainable manner. Because if you are self-employed, you always can count on the resources that you can make for yourself. You don't depend on a job that you may lose. You don't depend on aid that may be fade out, or a public enterprise that doesn't provide enough money for livelihoods of your family. So I believe that the self-empowerment that the entrepreneurship gives, particularly for women, it's really what can do most for development. And I always think that working with people, working in teams, with small teams, teams provides that sort of synergy and complementarities for success. And therefore, I always encourage in the assistance to SME development for the owner to learn to delegate and to build teams around him to or her to advance, because whatever you do in life, you cannot do it alone. And
That's true.
but in fact, if you want to succeed very quickly, you have to delegate and know what you're good at and what is your time most efficient way of using your time is best to do what you can do best, not to cover all the corners. So I believe in the sort of SME development programs that they are holistic, not only providing either training or finance. You need a combination of both, gives financial support, but also the right type of development training so that the business development can happen in the right manner. And in particular, in the entrepreneurship, I like to work with women because I believe that it suits this objective for many women to find a balance between work and life. Women are very skilled at multitasking, and if you give that sort of enabling environment, the freedom to enterprise, women succeed.
Right.
And so that has been is sort of the most rewarding for me. Another thing that I'm proud of is to having given opportunities to many young people come to work with along my years of career in international organization. I had initiated many programs with students, so they would come as interns. I had found grants, found a way to give them the resources to be able to come to Geneva or go to the field. And many of them have done so well. So it makes me proud, to open my LinkedIn and see that a lot of young people that have worked with me now have high positions in international organizations. Some of them are with LinkedIn as managers and at the World Economic Forum, World Bank, IMF. And they're doing very well.
No, you've had a great impact in the area of entrepreneurship for women. And I especially feel delighted that many women have had a chance of their career to start off with you and then go on and do so well. What are your views on the investment sector, especially with women in mind?
Well, fortunately, things have changed. There are now concept of sustainable investment that didn't exist before. They are inclusive. They want to have an impact. Also, the Sustainable Investment Fund have proved to perform better investment side of this sustainability aspect. The sustainability not only includes climate change or environmentally friendly sector, it also inclusivity and also investment for women. It has been proven that women receiving credits actually have a better performance rate in repayments than men, and use it for also not only for the development of their enterprise, but also for their community development. Most of the women enterprises are actually led to solve an issue in their community. So when you finance a women entrepreneur, you don't only lift off a business, you lifting up a community, a village, So that spirit of sustainability is now there. There are investment funds completely devoted to women entrepreneurs. There are women investment clubs. Some are ancient, like you find in Africa, particularly in Francophone Africa. It's called Tontine. It is a network of microcredit that actually is like the anti-network, the family network that will help you and support financing is that type of. But now they're being recognized and became sometimes investment circle, investment banks. There's an investment fund completely dedicated to that, 2X Collaborative, which is based in Singapore, with increased participation of women in women economic empowerment. This investment landscape will change, and possibly as a result, not only that investment will be more inclusive, but also the community will benefit. The infrastructure project, or there will be more investment in care, there will be more investment in health, there will be more investment in education. So you'll hear some comments, we need to invest in innovation, we need to and sectors like health, care, education were neglected because we need to investment in innovating new field, forgetting that healthcare, education, this is the basic needs of people, including food. If you put food, shelter, and health care, that's life. That's what is important in life. So women go to the basic needs. And this is what we need in
Mm-hmm.
2030. We are behind. If you look at only the gender gap, there's some study, they say, like the World Economic Forum estimated that there will be 120 years before we close the gap between men and women. Are you ready to wait 120 years? We are
A
not
long
ready for
time.
that long time. So we have to do something now. And I think investment has the responsibility to become sustainable, to give more space to women, and to recognize the important role they have in food, agriculture, shelter, housing,
Yes.
education, and care, health.
Right. No, right on. And that leads me to the next question, which is, what is the role of civil society in advocating for women?
The civil society role is a very important one. Women have been sometimes shy in building networks. It's not because outside of the family, women fear they cannot take responsibility, that they have no time to network. So they have been, sort of behind in recognizing the role, the powerful role of networks. I think this is changing now. There are women associations in every field. There is a revived feminist spirit, which I welcome, because the 70s, the 80s in many countries where the fight for women's rights brought some achievements, but that fight cannot stop in any corner of the world. Women's rights are never granted. We have to keep alert. And particularly, I would like to remind you that violence and abuse against women is a reality that happens in every country, unfortunately, in every income groups. It's not something neither for the poor or the rich, it's for everyone. It happens in every corner. Unfortunately, it happens often in the families where women are abused. So just only for that, women have to recognize that their solidarity and their necessity to fight for their rights. And I think now there is more space, more networks, and also the social media allow for more space for women to have access to networks and recognize their role in communicating, advocating their rights. Without movements of the civil society, no achievements has never been possible in any field to promote rights. The rights are, even if they are enshrined in constitution, they're never safe. There's no safety for any rights. So the civil society maintains the role of surveillance of those rights, but also renewal of commitments, which is necessary at every stage and for every girl. So we need to teach the children, the next generation, not to take it for granted, because particularly in the developed world, they think, oh, I can get an education, I can do what I want. And probably the wake-up call will arrive at one time or another, where somebody will tell you, who are you? Who's this girl? Who's that girl? It will come. The self-awareness of the need to fight for your rights will come. If we only look at the pay gap that women in many countries at the same level of qualification have to suffer, and we have to be self-confident, recognize our value, because ourselves sometimes we think, oh, we need to work harder to demonstrate that we can do. Sometimes even women fear to apply to a position because they don't tick all the boxes. I never seen a man reasoning like that. A man will say, I want to do it. I will demonstrate it that I have the determination to achieve this. And the woman will be sure, oh, can I demonstrate that I have the qualities or the skills to do that? So we have to be able to make that shift, to demonstrate that we want to achieve, and not only that we have the abilities. The abilities and skills can always be acquired. You have to have the drive, the motivation to achieve. And that is important.
That's true. I agree. The need to dream and to remove self-doubt is absolutely critical for growth. Fiorina, you also have been a lifelong learner and have had a recent certification in coaching. Tell us how you balance work and education and how you beautifully weave it all together in your professional and personal life.
Well, as I mentioned before, I was a trainer for the UN. I was mentoring. And when I stopped my work with UN and started consulting, and I lost this human touch, the ability to exchange with people, because consulting is often, particularly during COVID, report writing, and there were no project implementation. During COVID, it was impossible. And I think there is a shift even after COVID, that more things are done digitally, and there is less of a human exchange. So I wanted to come back to that. And since I cannot use the UN material for training, I said, oh, what can I do, to certify me as a trainer, as a coach? So I choose International Coaching Recognized Institute to be accredited internationally. And it has been a beautiful personal growth moment, because I could get a new methodology. I always intended to do enterprise coaching, but the training didn't really specify enterprise and individual coaching. So I'm certified for both. And actually, I enjoyed that, learning new tools to personal development, first of all, to apply to myself, to increase my abilities to be self-aware and establish my objectives, and having action plans, understanding the tools that you can use to make your motivation stay along and be consistent and persistent without procrastination. So I learned how to unstack myself and people in situation. After that, I have designed new programs, original new programs, and one of them is called She Leads, where I dedicated to women in career, where I harness my experience in the workplace, in the international organization, but also working with women entrepreneurs. And I have applied the coaching technique with my own experience, and created this journey that I could accompany people, particularly young girls that want to make a career. And most of the coaching is done in person, face to face, either individually or with groups. So I like that exchange and the dynamics that you can create, in a space where you create self-reflection, but also action. This idea that coaching doesn't look at the past, it looks at the future. What can you, building on the present, what can you do ahead? And that's what I like to do. Activate something, achieve.
Well, that's great. And looking back at your career journey, Fiorina, what advice would you give to individuals that are aspiring to make an impact in the international business development and entrepreneurship areas?
Well, this is a field that has so much potential. So I think if you are thinking about starting your own business, this is the right time. It's never been so easy to start a business. Now, a lot of the, in some countries, you can even do it in one day. The regulation has become so easy. And sometimes even the physical advantages that you have of being independent or your enterprises are there, because governments have understood that there's no job for life, and the governments cannot provide jobs for the upcoming youth population that is growing in many countries. Therefore, it's what it takes to create jobs for the future. So I would say you come at the right time, prepare yourself, but have that drive, that motivation. I was told when I was young, and I want to say, what is a motivation? Why people are telling me you have to be motivated? And now I recognize that drive you have to have, that willingness to achieve, willingness to do what it takes to make it happen. Sometimes it's sacrifices, sometimes it's working harder, sometimes it's studying harder, having another degree, learning another language. Do what it takes to make your dreams come true. If you can, dream big. The bigger you dream, the more you will achieve. Don't be scared. Most of the time we are blocked because of fear. And that's what we need to remove. We have to be confident that, yes, we can, we can do. And that motivation will be the engine to drive you along the way.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much for talking to us again about this whole journey and enriching us with so many ideas, thoughts, and enabling us to dream. And we have a quick rapid fire, which will be hopefully fun. And, the questions will help us to know you a little bit better at a personal level. So Fiorina, it's a rapid fire. Your favorite meal?
You get me there, because I'm Italian, so there's so many things I like. But my favorite cheese is mozzarella cheese, and I love pasta in all the possible ways you can. But I also love fish. I'm not a vegetarian.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And pasta is a very popular dish across the globe. The next one is music or reading.
Well, I love to read. It's one my passion, and I think it's also something that it has allowed me to learn, because if you read a lot reading, there's everything is accessible. But I also like to read nonfiction to relax. And I would like to talk about you to a recent book that I really enjoyed reading is A Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. Then, I always read for work. At this moment, I'm reading on Ethiopia because I'm designing a project for my consulting work, and it's a fascinating country. So, there's a lot of culture, a lot of civilization in this country. It's a diverse ethnicity. It's a second largest country in Africa. So I'm enjoying reading about the country and the latest economic development.
Oh, wonderful. And some of the best family moments would be?
Well, my family moments best is always around the table. We love getting together, sharing food, and it's a meal together is the best family moment for me.
Yeah,
particularly
absolutely.
when they are my nephews with their children. Extended large table for large family gatherings are the best moment.
Right. A fun trip is?
A volcano hike or a trip on an island. I love islands. I love volcanoes. If it's volcano on an island, it's perfect.
Wonderful. What's a good weekend plan?
The weekend plan would be where I could do some outdoor, activities like a hike, or, depending on the weather. I love to swim. I like to walk, in particular if it's not too demanding. Yeah, and hopefully with no work, which is not always possible, but
right. What's most relaxing?
There are two things I love. Shavasana in yoga. It's a very relaxing pose. Or swimming. Swimming in the ocean is very relaxing for me.
Life is a collection of
best memories in the past and best memories to build in the future.
And that's it in terms of getting to know you up close and personal, as well as your in-depth interview and getting to know you professionally. And I know we are just at the tip of the iceberg, Fiorina. Thank you so much for spending time with us. And to our viewers, hope this talk has been as enriching for you as it has been for me. And with more interesting conversations to come, we are signing off now. Ruchi Dwivedi and Fiorina Mugione. Thank you so much, all.